Space vampires. Space vampires. Space vampires! Spelljammer for 5e is out, so let's talk about Darkspace and the vampires that live there. Fun fact, telescopes use mirrors, so we don't actually know if there are any actual space vampires.
Hey!
This video is sponsored by Roll for Combat and their 5th edition D&D books, Battle Zoo Eldamon. 3 books full of new features for your 5e game, including the Elemental Avatar class and the Eldamon Trainer, which captures monsters and then they fight in your place. Now, part of this Kickstarter is the Battle Zoo Bestiary Strange and Unusual, which has new backgrounds, magic items, monster parts, and over 150 monsters. So check out the link in the description for more information, and thanks again, Roll for Combat. Hello everybody, Jordan here, the PH is silent. And what if Strahd didn't have a castle in Barovia, but rather a planet called Barovia? A lifeless world with a cold sun in eternal despair. Although Strahd and the Ravenloft campaign setting are not canonically part of Spelljammer, there is a dead sphere in the Spelljammer campaign setting home to vampires, and it is called Darkspace. Today, let's see about incorporating this 2nd edition Spelljammer crystal sphere into your game. Darkspace is a sunless crystal sphere with phlogiston connections to hero space and fairy space. In your spelljamming journey, if you're just now leaving realm space, you won't be able to fly directly to Darkspace. First, you might hit hero space, a small crystal sphere with 9 separate suns, each of which has a single planet revolving around it. The suns are smaller than a normal one, but they emit plenty of light. Now, each of the planets represent one of the 9 alignments: lawful good, true neutral, etc. And you may live on said planet only if your alignment matches it. Now, hero space is controlled by a group of 20 mages called the Rational Order of Magistrates. They were merchants originally that created high taxes and permitted only specific people to live within their crystal sphere. They have a powerful Spelljammer fleet that they use to protect their crystal sphere, but the reputation of hero space is usually enough to keep aggressive types away. Now, the second entrance to Darkspace is fairy space. It's an odd crystal sphere dominated by an enormous tree, and all who live in fairy space are unified and peacefully work together for the common good. The center of this sphere is a giant tree with equally giant branches and leaves. On the branches, 8 planets hang like fruit from the tree, and this makes it possible for someone to actually walk from one planet to another along the branches. Even from the edge of the sphere, it is impossible to see the tree in its entirety. Light and warmth come from the strange fruit that the tree produces, these miniature suns. It's an odd bit of wild space as the entire crystal sphere is filled with breathable air thanks to the massive tree. But it's getting its own sunlight from itself, so I'm not really sure how that works. Let's talk about Darkspace. The center of Darkspace is the husk of a dead sun. Now, this dead sun is a cold, dead fire body, which is the main orbital attractor within this solar system. And this supplement didn't go into much detail about what a dead fire body means. It's not on fire. Does it turn into an earthen body? And I assume you could land on this because you can land on fire bodies when they are on fire. So I like to speculate that the terrain is maybe rocky and fragile. You could probably fall right through it. Now, this crystal sphere wasn't always like this. This fire body was once a warm and nurturing sun to the system and its inhabitants. Darkspace was first discovered by a Faerunian vampire named Talon. Talon was from Anglaron and was a trusted advisor to the king of Anglaron. His change into a vampire came one night when he and his new bride were out on a walk, and the two were accosted by Thayan rogues who killed his wife. Talon took many of the brutes out before they ran from him, and lying on the ground, Talon would soon bleed out from his injuries, unable to get any help. It was in that moment that he made a silent bargain with death and drank the blood from one of his assailants. It was this act that changed him into a vampire. Now fueled by anger and hatred, Talon became known as the Harbinger of Death and has ruined many lives and worlds since his transformation. The vampire eventually left Faerun, left realm space, and started searching wild space. Talon's greatest conquest was the unknown crystal sphere of Darkspace. Sometime in history, the Dark Vampire came to a crystal sphere with no name and discovered it to be inhabited by humanoid creatures. These humans lived on the third planet from the sun and had no knowledge of space travel, spelljamming, or even magic. When Talon landed on the planet, there was little the population could do to stand against him. A young vampire, Talon was not careful about siring other vampires, and a large batch of the population was turned into vampires until the remaining mortals banded together in one last attempt to turn back the vampire plague. They failed. All were killed. It became known as the Time of Death, where every man, woman, and child on the planet was destroyed. The vampire population, now numbering in the tens of thousands, realized they had no living prey left. Without new blood, they would begin to starve and start hunting and feeding on each other. This became known as the Age of Blood, and it was here that the planet and the solar system started its transformation into what we know today as Darkspace. Talon's children turned on him, believing that if they drank his blood, they would be cured or live a little bit longer. He killed his own vampires by the thousands. Talon was older and stronger than any of the other vampires in Darkspace. And then as the years passed, Talon grew even stronger and could soon survive great periods of time without blood. He decided to withdraw deep into the underground to sleep, hibernate, meditate. He woke perhaps 50 or so years later, weak and in need of blood, and discovered on the surface that there was no more than 30 vampires left hunting each other. Talon killed them all, taking their blood for strength. No life remained on the planet, no plants. It was a dead world. And somehow during his sleep, the sun faded, no longer burning. The entire solar system was colder and dead. Talon eventually found the original spelljamming ship he took to get here. He animated corpses using necromancy as servants and crew and left Darkspace in search of blood. And this brought him to yet another crystal sphere called Great Space. Here, Talon hopes to bring about 5,000 people from Great Space to Darkspace and create a sustainable crop of humans for feeding. He wants to stay in Darkspace, he just needs to be able to eat. And honestly, there's your plot. If you find yourself in Darkspace, perhaps Talon brought those people already, and there are innocents that need saving from a sunless, macabre existence on a dead world. Talon lives on the third planet located in a castle called the Tower of Night, a large imposing tower made of pitch black smooth marble. Just looking at it can instill fear in the form of a saving throw that prevents you from entering. The art in the book doesn't really invoke a sense of dread that the text does, but search for a cool castle with a dark tower and you should be able to show that to your players. There is a full map of the tower in the 2nd edition Spelljammer supplement SJA3 Crystal Spheres for a dungeon delve into the Master Vampire's home in Darkspace. Fun aspects of the Tower of Night: the entryway has a giant mirror that creates reflections of the party to attack them. Negaverse party members. And in the library, there is a 5% chance of finding a magical book for every hour of searching. And some books include the Book of Infinite Spells and the Book of Vile Darkness. Although the sun in Darkspace is dead and cold, magic can solve all problems. There exists an ancient magic item crafted from the fabric of light known as the Sun Seed. This could be used to reignite the sun and bring warmth back to Darkspace. Perhaps then your party can defeat Talon and rename Darkspace a more pleasant-sounding name. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you, Roll for Combat, for sponsoring this video. Be sure to check out their Kickstarter by clicking the link in the description. Thank you, patrons, for supporting me. You can do so as well by going to patreon.com/Jordan with a PH in the middle. Subscribe for more D&D lore and other tabletop RPG content. Are you running a Spelljammer game soon? Do you like the idea of incorporating space vampires or the evil Talon? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video.